Howdy everybody, welcome back to more managerial accounting fun. I'm Professor Martin. In our video right now we're going to be taking a look at cost of goods manufactured. We're going to define it and we're going to show you how to calculate it. Two things that are going to come in pretty handy on your homework, I do believe. So our definition, cost of goods manufactured, what are we talking about? We're talking about the total product cost of goods completed during the period. And then we're going to take that total cost of goods that we have completed and transfer it out to finished goods inventory. And so you hear that phrase total product cost. You may think back to our last video. Last time we talked about our three components of product cost, of manufacturing cost. We have our direct material, our direct labor, our factory overhead. You throw it all into the pot, you stir it up, you add it together, and you get total product cost. Pretty simple concept. You think about that and you think about the definition I just gave you. Cost of goods manufactured, the total product cost of goods completed. And so you're like, well, wait a second. This actually sounds like it might be pretty simple. If cost of goods manufactured is the total cost of goods completed, we just take our product cost, add it up, and we're done. Wipe your hands and you're done with it, right? Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. There's a complication. Manufacturers will start and end every period with raw materials inventory. And they'll start and end every period with work in process inventory. Work in process inventory, or WIP, are items that they've began manufacturing, but they haven't finished at the end of the period. And so we got an assembly line right here. You can imagine Nike. We've been using them as an example. At the end of any given month, Nike will have a bunch of shoes on the assembly line that aren't finished yet, right? And so we have that complication. We can't just take product cost and add them together because some of those product costs happened in the prior month with raw materials. Some of them happened in the prior month with work in process inventory. I'm not done. And so we're trying to figure out the cost of goods that are finished during the period. We're trying to figure out how much materials we used. We're trying to figure out what was actually completed. So that's our wrinkle that keeps us from just being able to add up product cost and saying, okay, that's cost of goods manufactured. We got to consider the raw materials inventory and the work in process inventory. Luckily for you, I'm here on a Saturday doing my job, trying to help you figure out how we come up with the numbers here. So calculating materials used in production. The first part that we're talking about the raw materials. How do we calculate the materials used in production? Very simple calculation, thankfully. We're going to start off with our beginning inventory of raw material, our beginning materials. And we're going to add to that what we bought material-wise. And think about that for a second. What we began with as far as materials are concerned, and then what we add in, or what we bought. We add those two together, we get a total amount of material. We subtract out what we used up in production, and that will give us our ending raw materials inventory. Now, we're usually trying to calculate that direct materials used in production. A lot of times in your problems, you'll be given beginning inventory, you'll be given material purchases, and you'll be given ending inventory. You kind of have to subtract out to get that direct materials used in production. What I mean by that is we'd take beginning inventory, we'd add purchases, we'd subtract out ending inventory to back into that number right there. That sounds confusing, doesn't it? Let's put a few numbers to it. Bingo Denim, maker of fine, fashionable, durable blue jeans. On June 1, Bingo had 78,000 of materials in inventory. Denim. You can think denim, you can think brass buttons, you can think zippers, whatever you want to think. During June, they bought 220,000 more of materials. On June 30, materials inventory equaled 24,000. So obviously to make the jeans, they have used up some of that raw material inventory because they began with 78 and they bought 220,000. At the end of the month, they only had 24,000. That material had to go somewhere. Maybe they made the world's largest pair of jeans and cranked out one pair of jeans. And more than likely, they made a bunch of normal, regular sized jeans. All right. And so our goal is to try to figure out the cost of direct materials that they used up. Go back to that calculation I showed you. Beginning inventory of materials plus what they bought. We're going to be figuring direct materials used in production equals ending inventory. And we're going to take those two, add them together, subtract out that ending inventory. The difference has to be what was used up. So here we go. Beginning inventory, 78,000. We bought 220,000 more at Bingo Jeans. Add those two together. We get 298,000. We subtract out 24,000. We get 274,000. Easy as that. On your homework, you may have to fill out a schedule to kind of make that calculation. It may have you have some different drop-down boxes or numbers to plug in, but it's going to follow that pattern right there. And so now that we've got the materials part figured out, what about WIP? We got to WIP it, work in process inventory. Again, our WIP, cost of partially completed items that are on the factory floor at the end of the period. Things we've started but didn't finish before the end of the period. How do we deal with the WIP? Bingo Denim makes blue jeans. During June, Bingo incurred $132,000 of direct labor and $140,000 of manufacturing overhead. You see their beginning and ending materials inventory that we just looked at. We also see beginning and ending work in process. We're going to need that beginning and ending work in process along with our manufacturing cost. We've got a couple of components of that right there. So what's our calculation? We're going to deal with WIP here. What do? We're going to take our beginning WIP, our beginning work in process. We're going to add the manufacturing cost for the period. And we calculated that number, direct material, labor, and overhead. We're going to subtract out ending work in process, stuff that's not done and completed. And that gives us our cost of goods manufactured. And so again, we'll break that down for you. Our beginning work in process, we're going to add in our manufacturing cost for the period, direct material, labor, and overhead. We're going to subtract out ending work in process, and that's going to give us our cost of goods manufactured. The cost of goods manufactured during the period, the cost of goods completed during the period. So let's plug in a few numbers here from our problem. 45,000 beginning WIP. Our manufacturing cost for the period, we had 274,000 of material. The other two numbers I gave you, we calculated that 274,000 a few seconds ago. And then we're going to subtract out our ending WIP to get our cost of goods manufactured. Again, cost of goods manufactured, total product cost of goods completed. We finished them. We're going to send those costs out to finished goods inventory. Still on the balance sheet, but we're just kind of moving them to a different account. That is cost of goods manufactured. One more question we need to answer. If that's what it cost to make the product that was finished during the period, what did it cost to make the products that were sold during the period? That's another video. We'll look at that, how to calculate cost of goods sold in our last video of the chapter. As always, if you have any questions as you're making your calculations or maybe the terminology is throwing you for a loop and you're not really comfortable with it, you'd like a different explanation or further explanation, I'd be happy to provide that and help out. Feel free to reach out to me and I will get you that information. Until next time, take care everybody.